Well, thank all of you for showing up and being here with us for this pitch panel. We are going to be hearing 8 pitches tonight, and I will introduce our lovely panelists in a few minutes. I'm going to first start off with just letting you know we are here celebrating our Fast Track Fellows that just finished their week of meetings, and past Fast Track Fellows and pitch challenge winners, because we had to postpone our last pitch challenge because of the strikes. So we are back and kind of like throwing it all in together. So it's going to be a fun, jam-packed night. We want to thank Final Draft for being a sponsor for our pitch panel event. Thank you, Final Draft. And let's see. A couple things to talk about. Felicity's going to talk specifically about the Fast Track, but just wanted to let you know that the current season is open, barely. You can use the promo pitch 20 and get $20 off if you want to enter. I'm going to let Felicity talk about specifics of Fast Track and what it is, but it's an amazing week, an amazing opportunity. So if you are able and you want to enter, use that promo. We are going to put it in the chat, I believe. And then also, because it's a pitch panel, just wanted to throw it out there that we do offer one-on-one pitch practice. And that is a way for you to work with me and work on your pitch, whether it's your 90-second pitch like we're doing tonight, or your full pitch if you have a pitch meeting. It really does help to talk it out loud and work it out and hear from somebody who has no idea what your project is and kind of work through it with you. So we do have that available, and we have a promo for that. If you want to sign up for that, you can use the promo pitch now to get $10 off. All right, so I'm going to throw it over to Felicity Wren, who is our VP of Development at ISA, to talk about Fast Track.
Hello, thanks everyone for coming, and thank you to our panelists for being here and listening to the pitches. It's so wonderful to hear your opinion, and it really does make a difference to practice and see that it's maybe not as scary as you thought it was, and that there are certain techniques and tricks you can do that actually make you a better pitcher. And the Fast Track Fellowship is something where you get to pitch yourself to 8 executives. We select the fellows we do a lot of reading, a lot of rounds in the contests, but then we also select the fellows for how close they are to tipping over and actually, we think, really making their way in the industry. It's not just about the scripts, it's about how well they've done so far, and how we can really help them with their trajectory. So you get 8 meetings with top-level agents, managers, producers, and executives during this week. And we at the ISA, Shana and myself, we actually advise the fellows before they go into the meetings. We practice with them on their origin story. We give them feedback on how it's coming across, and we set them up to ask the right kind of questions in those meetings and to prepare properly. So you can ask the right questions to get them to help you without it feeling like an obligation, and also not to be too pushy. We also get them prepped so that any future meetings, whether it's in person or on a Zoom, feels much easier, because after you've done it for a week, one after the other, it becomes almost like second nature. You kind of learn how to kind of speak about yourself in the right way, pivot when you need to, and have the kind of story down about who you are and why you wrote the story really kind of settled. Finally, we look at how they pitch their project actually in the room. So that's why we selected some of the pitches now for you to see. And we also talk about the other scripts that they have. So they can just, again, sell themselves without it feeling like you're a salesperson, and more about you're getting to know the person, and it's a wonderful kind of conversation. Andrea and Katie. Andrea is not here tonight. You will actually be seeing her video pitch. She's recorded it for us. That'll be good fun. But they were the fellows in May. Due to the writer's strike, actually, some of their pitches and their meetings were delayed. So they're having their last meetings now, actually, with Genius Entertainment on Friday. No, not Friday, December the 4th. Andrea has just won the whole pitch festival for the Austin Film Festival with her pitch for Breast In Show. So I think obviously the practice that happened during the Fast Track Week worked for her. Katie, another one of her films, has just gone into production. The film is called The Nicest Person Here. And her pitch that she's talking about tonight, Youth in Asia, I really hope gets made. So things are moving for them. Miguel and Lewis are 2 writers that are in a partnership, and they're having their meetings this November one of the mentors has already promised to introduce them and their film Angel in Retrograde to his investor. So that's gone really well for them. And Kiefer, who is also pitching tonight, has been asked for a series outline for his pilot Fever and asked for a follow-up meeting with one of the mentors. So I think it really does make a difference to practice being in a room with executives, and then also just to practice your pitch about yourself, your work, and your future projects. So this is so exciting tonight. Please do enter Fast Track if you think you are ready, if you would like to have this opportunity, if you would like to get a manager, if you'd like to practice your technique for pitching. It really does make a difference. Also, we get to hang out with you for a week, and that's always really good fun. I wish everyone that's pitching tonight the best of luck. Just be yourself. Enjoy it. We want to love your pitch. That's the thing. We want you to come in and blow our socks off, because everyone wants to make money, and also everyone's looking for the next best writer and the next hot project. So good luck tonight. And if you want to enter Fast Track, please do. Then I get to meet you.
Thank you, Felicity. You sped through that and it was very informative. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, we are going to get started. First, I am going to introduce our panelists who are with us tonight and so graciously giving their time and energy to listen to these pitches and give their feedback. First, I'm going to start with Leah Bleich, and I hope I said it right. Did I say it right? Yay! Okay, ish, right? Leah is a creative executive for Just for Laughs in the TV development department. If you don't know Just for Laughs, where have you been in the world? And thank you, Leah, for being here. We appreciate it. Next up is Mark Maley. Mark is a creative executive at Big Swell Entertainment. Thank you, Mark, for being here. And last, we have Diallo Riddle, who is a director, producer, writer, showrunner, and he has a new podcast out called One Song, which I'll just throw that out there. And it's fun. So thank you, Diallo, for being here. Okay, so here's how it's going to work tonight. We are going to hear 8 pitches. So that's kind of why we're trying to get the ball rolling so we don't keep everybody here all night. We're going to try to get through it. We will pull up pitchers one at a time, and they will give a little intro about themselves and then go right into their 90-second pitch. After each pitch, they will go off screen. Actually, maybe they'll stay on screen, and we will hear from each of our panelists about what they thought, what they liked, what they think could be improved, anything like that. If you are interested in the project, by all means, say so. We would love that. And we will do that 8 times, and then we will be out of here. And I hope that everybody enjoys themselves, learns some things, and you know, uses it to work on their own pitches and getting themselves ready for those meetings. Okay, so first up, here. Okay.
There it is. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys begin whenever you're ready.
My name is Miguel Angel Caballero. I am a writer, director, producer, and I'm co-writer on Angel in Retrograde.
And my name is Luis Antonio Aldana, a writer, co-writer of Angel in Retrograde. And just very quickly, you know, I just want to say, being part of the ISA in this round has been really, really incredible. Like Felicity mentioned, we had this really incredible moment where a producer that we pitched our story to, or that we had a meeting with, sort of became really interested in sort of the story, and sort of we're having conversations. And it was just really sort of a testament to how important, you know, a screenwriting community is. And I just want to thank you for making that available to so many of us. And we're just really excited to be here. And thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, and Angel in Retrograde is actually a really personal story for Luis and I. Growing up in a culture and community where homophobia and toxic masculinity were prevalent, it really led to some traumatic experiences for us as queer boys. So much so that we had to create 2 versions of who we were. And the first version was the version that we presented to our friends, to our family, to society in order to be accepted. And the other version was who we truly were, but we kept really hidden in our heart because of fear of not being accepted by the tribe. So in writing the story, we asked ourselves, you know, Luis and I sat down and asked, like, what would happen if our most traumatic and damaging experiences all of a sudden disappeared one day? Would we become a different person? Would our destiny be altered? And that's exactly what happens to Angel in our story. Angel's a 40-year-old man who's involved in a brutal car accident, and he's diagnosed with retrograde amnesia. And that means that he can't remember the last 20 years of his life. So he can't remember his wife or his teenage daughter. And as memories start coming back, he realizes that he's been living the last 20 years in the closet, which leads him on a search for Joshua, his estranged high school friend that he was once in love with.
And really what we wanted to do with the film, with Angel in Retrograde, we were interested in deconstructing the notion of coming out, it not happening to an adolescent, but rather to somebody in their 40s, in Latina communities. Catholicism, machismo, homophobia can really act in concert to nail the closet door for so many of us. Consequently, many of us live in a voluntary state of amnesia, denying who we really are. With the film, we hope to tap into the universality of tradition, trauma, courage, redemption, and the journey to find one's true self.
Awesome. All right, thank you. We will start with Diallo, since you're looking at me. I'm going to go with you first.
I'm just laughing. How did you know I was looking at you? I mean, you were talking. Really, really cool, guys. I think one thing that I think every good pitch has is clarity. And this is you understand it. I think to say that he has this family, but he has amnesia, and then he, becomes interested in someone from his past, it's very clear. And I know that I sort of knew from the way you described it that there was an allegory there even before you said it. So I think that's awesome. I always say that, like, really clarity, and just, when you get it, you get it. I always say you kind of know in the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whether the people you're pitching to have any interest at all. I'm happy to say one time I sold a pitch in the first, minute. After about a minute, he was like, "Wait, is it this and that?" And I was like, "Yes." By the way, if they ever say, "Is it this and that?" just say yes as a road answer. I think this is a great pitch. I think it's really, really solid. I don't want to take up too much time.
Thank you, Della.
Thank you.
All right, Leah, let's go to you.
Hi guys, great pitch. I really enjoyed you guys taking the time, despite having it be kind of the elevator pitch version of the story. I enjoyed that you took the time to kind of describe your personal connection to it at the beginning. I think that is always valuable, because we're empathetic people and we want to lean in. I think the story sounds really interesting. I want to know more about it. I think all films that this is a feature, right? Not TV?
Feature.
Or
Feature,
is it?
yes.
Yeah. All features that deal in amnesia are going to, in some way, live in the shadow of Memento. But at the same time, this feels extremely distinct from that. And the only question mark for me was, to what extent we as the viewer are living in the memories of this character. I didn't, and I don't know whether that needs to be included in the elevator pitch version, but some color on to what extent this really fully takes place in what I'd call an objective reality, watching this character go through experiences, versus whether we're seeing this more subjective experience through his eyes, was something I was curious about. But it's a very quick pitch, so that I would leave that up to you.
That's a really
Thank
good
you.
note. I was wondering the same thing. Okay, Mark, let's go to you.
Yeah, and I'll jump right in. And actually, on the front end, I definitely agree with Leah. Getting the hook in early, the personal connection there is great. And in the realm of write what you know, I'm sure you both are very familiar with this world, and there's a lot of details. And when you really get into script and story, it's what are the details, what are the nuance. So I'm sure that all exists. I think the one thing, and I guess it's we're dealing with the abbreviated elevator pitch version. If I was curious about the character. I wanted to know more. I was salivating for, tell me more about his life. What else is there? And it is very difficult. Admittedly, it's very difficult. And it's condensed. But I think that's it's a great pitch. And I wish you guys luck with that for sure. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. Thank you
so much.
Well, Luis and Miguel were with us this week last week or the week before, I don't remember, for meetings, and they are just amazing, amazing. And I mean, just remember their names and their faces because you're going to see them a lot. So
You're awesome. Thank you so much, Shana.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yeah.
all right, so now we're going to bring up Kalyan Sura, which I hope I said that correctly. So just give us a minute. Hello. So is it Kalyan Sura or Sura Kalyan?
Kalyan Sura in India, the last name comes first, so I go by Sura Kalyan. In the
Okay.
US, I think the last name comes last, so I go by Kalyan Sura.
Okay.
So
Nice to
either
meet
way
you.
works.
And
Nice
you're
to
in
meet you
India
all.
right now?
No, I'm in San Diego actually. I'm
Oh, you
originally
are?
from India, but I live in California, San Diego.
Awesome. All right. Well, anytime that you are ready, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kalyan Sura. I'm a filmmaker from San Diego. I started out in animation about 10 years ago before I went to USC Film School when I fell in love with writing and directing. I especially love science fiction, fantasy, dramedy, and animation, and I combine all of them into my series. Now, you must have heard about Jack and Jill who went up the hill. I'm here to tell you about Jackie and Jalal who went down the monster well. Jackie and Jalal went down a well and found a horde of monsters. They messed about, the monsters broke out. Now they must fix these disasters. So Jackie and Jalal is a serialized half-hour action-adventure animated series in the vein of Troll Hunters and Avatar: The Last Airbender. It follows two 13-year-old monster hunters who are living in a monster-infested Los Angeles. Jackie Bright is a crossbow-wielding know-it-all who wants to prove herself in this male-dominated world of monster hunting. Jalal Shah is a tech geek and an online DIY guru with a bloated ego. He wants to use his fame to restore his Indian immigrant family's glory. When these two hotheads are teamed up for a test of admission into the famed School of Monster Studies, all hell breaks loose. They clash and accidentally unleash 12 ancient monsters from a prison well. The monsters trap them in different dimensions. Now the kids must overcome their insecurities and find a way to work together across dimensions to save the world from the monster mayhem they accidentally unleashed. The friendships they forge and the lessons they learn during their swashbuckling adventures forms the heart of the series. Now, animation shaped my childhood. Many of my life lessons and artistic inclinations come from the stories that I adored as a child. But unfortunately, none of the shows that I grew up with had any brown characters. So I conceived Jackie and Jalal with all the thrills and excitement of Western animation, but in an inclusive mold. This essentially is a story about trust and teamwork, and I believe now is a great time to reteach younger audiences these values, especially in a day and age when they are more divided than ever. Thank you for listening to my pitch, and I thank ISA for this opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you. Leah, I'm going to start with you.
Hi, thank you for this pitch. What a fun world this is. And I'm very intrigued to know more. These elevator pitches, you just get a taste of it. You want to know more, which is great. I think I love the personal connection, love this, conversation about wanting to see yourself reflected in the shows that you see. I think that's really important and very timely. For me, I think because animation is so broad and it can be so many different things tonally, I think it would be really helpful to hear a couple comps. Like, is this like Adventure Time? Is it like an animated Buffy? Because the world that you just described in 30 seconds, I commend you for describing such a big world in 30 seconds. But I want to know, what does the average episode look like, and what are the kind of things that they're going to do, episode by episode? Is it serialized? Is it episodic? Like, I think some of that would be really helpful.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'd agree. I think the enthusiasm comes through, right? The passion for the project, is amazing there. So very well done. And I think that really sets the tone for kind of the world you're creating and the story you're trying to tell, which is fantastic. And the one thing that came to my mind as well was just along the lines of audience, which is okay, who is my audience? Which the comp thing is a great example. What am I looking for there? But then also, and when you take this out, and I would say this to everyone as well, especially if you don't have a producer, know who your audience is, who you're pitching, what kind of production company you would take this to, right? Like an animation company, or what studios. And you can, because this you might have to be kind of pointed with, but it's a fantastic world. The animation is doing very well. So yeah, I think it'd be very fun to see this made. So very cool. Well done.
Thanks, Mark. Diallo.
I'm actually, I have an animated project that I'm taking out right now. And there was at least one other animated. I love animation and I love sci-fi. So I'm probably a person who's in your audience immediately. And I can totally co-sign on the whole Brown thing. Because I didn't see a whole lot of that either, especially in sci-fi. But I'm going to be a little bit hard on this because I said to the last guys, like, clarity is so important. And to me, lore is so fun to write, and it's also important. I was confused. So you said that they're trapped in different dimensions?
Yeah.
Are they trapped in these different dimensions together, or are they working across a dimensional plane?
So as I conceived it, one of them gets trapped in the medieval setting in Europe,
Okay.
and the other is in a futuristic Asia. So
Okay.
there is another character who kind of resides in the well and plays the bridge between them.
Okay, so they're working together, but so this is a little in the weeds. It's a TV show. It's a half hour. That was really good. I like the fact you're like, it's a half hour, anime. Are they going to be? So are you going to have an A story and a B story? Like he's solving this while she's solving that, and then they sort of check in at the end.
Yeah.
How was that? That's
Yeah.
sort of how it works. Okay, so their plots sort of run parallel. They're not constantly like this.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think Leah had a very good point, which is that that's actually one other thing I want to say. I think that if it's supposed to be Aqua Teen Hunger Force and it's sort of like a stoner cartoon, that's one type of show, and if it's borderline, American animation, American anime for the lack of it, but then that's a very different show. I think we need to know that. And I'll end with this. Anytime I've taken out an animated project, I will say that we always sort of knew, we already had the animator on board. We already had the artist on board. So we were able to show them, hey, this is what the show is going to look like. It wasn't like fully fleshed out scenes, but it was like, this is the main character. This is the so-and-so. This is you may not know an anime. Are you animating it?
I'm not animating it myself, but because I work for DreamWorks Animations and I work with a lot of like VFX companies, so
okay,
I have an idea.
I just think at some point when you're pitching it, it would be nice to have, if not, some pictures, but at least like I think someone else said, like, here are the comps, like this is, it's going to look kind of like this, but with our own spin on it.
So quickly, I threw in, I think it was a little rush, but I threw in that they were in the vein of Troll Hunters and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I know that they are like tonally a little distinct, but I don't know if they kind of like were completely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it comes down to, it's going to look like if you tell me it looks like Airbender, I don't think that they're going to think, yeah, it's going to look exactly like it. No. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Let me get my video on. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good. Anytime you're ready, go ahead.
All right. So I'm Mika, and I'm a screenwriter and actor. So I grew up as a millennial brown kid raised by an eccentric single white mom in the throwback era of nostalgic real childhoods, the 90s and 2000s in small town conservative South Africa. So otherness, sticking out like a sore thumb, is what I know. And those are the stories that I tell about the square pegs and the round holes, about the people whose otherness is irksome and the realities that they inhabit. The past 3 years of my life have been, well, hell. I've been homeless, not once, but twice, and I've been schooled and whipped by life in ways I never knew possible, all in my pursuit to becoming a screenwriter. So this pilot titled Homeless is the fictionalized version of my experience living in a car. It's a half-hour comedy drama set in the world of a parking lot in a wealthy beachside community. It poses the question, can an ambitious, too old to be broke, but too young to be old 27-year-old millennial and her 59-year-old whimsical boomer aunt manifest the lives of their dreams and escape homelessness while they face extraordinary adversity and survival. So we follow Milo as she pursues her dream of becoming an award-winning actress through soul-crushing rejection. And we see her on the brink of giving up when the daily struggle and hustle of surviving hunger, sleep deprivation, and practical problems of not having a bathroom is too much. And so she hides her life behind quirky social media posts. And then we follow Stevie through a major transition in her womanhood as she enters the last third of her life fraught with harshness and disappointment. And we get to see the strain of intense close quarters living and stressful circumstances on Milo and Stevie as they try not to kill each other. This show speaks to the 20-somethings who are behind in the eyes of their predecessors, the boomers who are too young to retire but too old to get work. Is homelessness a heavy topic? Yes, but you cannot go through something so dark and get to the other side without keeping a sense of humor. It's embarrassing, crushing, ridiculous, hilarious, and real. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. I'm going to go to you, Mark, first.
Yeah, lovely. Well done, Mika. Very well done. And I believe you said you're an actor as well.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you exude the confidence in pitching. It was very well done. So yeah, like I think definitely a story we haven't seen before, which is very very unique, and obviously the personal connection is there as well, which is which is pivotal to this. So very well done there. I think one thing that I just wanted to talk about, you mentioned the social media piece. And I wasn't sure in what way does that get incorporated into the story? How is that relevant? Just because it got mentioned, but then it didn't kind of come up again, and I was curious, how that ties in. If that makes sense.
Well, it's just that she hides her life, Milo, and so it's like she's living in these circumstances that are like blatantly staring her in the face every single day, everywhere she goes. But she is unwilling or unable to like come to terms with it, and it's like, okay, let me paint a pretty picture, and everything is fine on the outside, and then it doesn't exist. So that's something that continues throughout.
Okay, got it. So it's kind of like a through line there. Okay, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think the only one thing I would say is I was trying to just connect those dots, and if it's something just for this condensed version, if it maybe makes sense just to kind of leave some of those things out, just to streamline it, that could maybe be one tip there. But I think again, these characters are something we haven't seen before. I was very excited about kind of following their journey and seeing where this trajectory takes them, and keeping a light tone, which you kind of mentioned at the end there. I think is the best way to handle it, right? These are really difficult life circumstances, but we have to treat it with some levity as well, which kind of shapes it. I think that was great, and I wish you well for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Mark. Diallo, I'm going to go to you next.
I really like this pitch. This sounds weird to say, I love your personal connection to it, even though that's like some stuff that obviously we wouldn't want to be in that circumstance, but like what a way to make something beautiful and positive out of such a circumstance. I have so many questions, and you know what, it was such an interesting pitch. This is going to happen sometimes when you're pitching. You might have said this and I didn't. I was probably like deep in thought. Did you say where this beachside community is?
No, I did not. It's
okay.
No, I didn't. It's fictional.
Okay, yeah, to me the setting would be nice to know. Like, I think I know that you said you were in South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just think it makes a difference whether it's a wealthy city in South Africa or Malibu. You know what I mean? I think setting's pretty important to me. There's a lot to unpack there. I think it's a really good pitch. I immediately knew what was interesting about it. Obviously living in LA, like the plight of the unhoused everywhere, so to see a show, I think if you can pull this off and execute this, it would be an amazing show, and it would, and every, you know, all the critics would absolutely, you know, bring you in front of them and want to know more. So I feel like I might have some advice in the future. Maybe I'll reach out or whatever, but you know, it's just it's I think it could be so, this sounds weird to say, I think it could be so like funny in a weird way. Like it could be like no, seriously, I like the fact that you're saying you're dealing with it lightly, because it just, to me, I just man, I hope I get to watch this show.
Thank you.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that, right? Leah, we'll go to you.
No, I completely agree. I want to read this. I want to know more about it. It's so, I love that I'm echoing a lot of what was just said, but I love that you went through something really challenging, and that the reaction is one of my favorite things about comedy is I think it can be so honest, in that, like, even in the most desperate circumstances as human beings, like, the way that we often cope is through humor. And I think sometimes really, really heavy drama can almost feel less authentic, because it doesn't capture that coping mechanism of humor. So yes, this is something that I want to watch. The only thing that I bumped on was, I was so invested in this character, this main character, mostly because you're pitching me, and so I'm imagining you in this circumstance, and imagining a 27-year-old, I don't know how old you actually are, but a 27-year-old female protagonist. And then with this aunt, I wasn't sure where she fit into the picture, because once we started talking A story, B story, does she also live in the car with the main character, or where does the aunt live
Yes.
in the world?
No. They live together. They're together in this
Okay.
situation in the car. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I think I just maybe missed a detail there, that they were living together, or how that came to be. But yeah, I absolutely want to know more. These 30-second pitches, you just want to lean in and get the rest of the details. So I'm hooked.
I'm sorry, can I throw out two more quick things? One, this is such a small detail. I think if the aunt is in her 50s, she's technically Generation X and not a boomer. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
it's such a small thing, but you know, I think boomers are like the guys running for president. But
this is tiny too. This is calibrating. This is not something to radically change anything. But I will say, the most painful dances with pitching is that it is all scripted, and yet you also want to convince your viewer that you also have just eloquently delivered it off the top of your head. And there was a little, I think that you can dial back the performative elements just a tiny bit, and trick us a little more into thinking that you're just the most eloquent person to ever speak. But that's, you know, that's also the odd thing.
Does that make
about an
sense,
elevator
Mika? I
pitch.
think that's a good note. Because
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Make it a little less reedy, and just make it feel like it's flowing out of you that moment.
Yeah.
That is
Got
the
it.
hardest part of the pitch, right? When you have a lot to say and you're like, how do I do this? I can't wing it. But
By the way,
it's
Sheena, it looked like you were like, that is the hardest part of.
No. And to jump in,
It's such an annoying note.
yeah, and I usually always equate it to comedy, which I think got brought up as well. Which, you know, if you go see a comedian, they're telling those stories every night, 2-3 times a night, but they want you to act like this is the first time, right? This is the first time, you know, which is what how we kind of touched on as well. So it's a solid note.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
And great pitch, Mika. Thank you so much. Okay, our fourth one is the video pitch, because Andrea Berting is on a production tonight, and so she couldn't make it. So we are going to watch her video pitch, and then we will discuss afterwards just some pros and cons on that.
My name is Andrea Berting, and this is my dramedy feature Breaston show. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 30. No family history, just a total surprise. And experiencing that so young, being the youngest person in the waiting room by 20 or 30 years, is what inspired me to write my dramedy feature Breaston show, which is about a young breast cancer patient who teaches her senior support group members to learn to love their bodies again through the art of burlesque. Breaston show follows Maya, who's a young burlesque performer, Now, Maya is independent to a fault after the death of both of her parents, including losing her mother to breast cancer. So when she discovers a lump while redressing after a burlesque performance, she goes to get it checked out immediately. After a whole barrage of tests, she gets the worst possible news. It's cancer. During treatment, Maya meets Flo, who's a feisty 80-something managing a terminal stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis. Flo introduces Maya to a support group, the Bosom Buddies, where Maya butts heads with the uptight group leader, but ultimately bonds with the women over the struggles with body image and confidence issues that can come with breast cancer treatment. My background as a burlesque performer made me passionate about body positivity and the belief that all bodies are good bodies, but it can be hard to hold on to that when your body is literally trying to kill you. Breast and Show celebrates female empowerment, redefining what it means to be feminine, and the power of female friendships. Thank you.
Well, I'm probably the target audience for this. I have the breast cancer mutation, so I'm at super, super high risk of breast cancer personally. I spend a lot of time thinking about it, huge family history, and also have been trying to crack a dramedy in the breast cancer space already. So I love this take. I love that. I can't believe it's all so much from personal experience that you actually are a burlesque performer and a breast cancer survivor. And this movie absolutely should exist. The title is perfect.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if I have any constructive notes. I just want to read it.
Awesome. Well, that's
Oh, maybe what I guess maybe one, which is I guess if it is a comedy. Well, I don't even because now I'm doubling back on the note I gave on the last pitch about scripting things. But maybe if there was some little wink joke to throw in there to set the tone, maybe there's room for that. But otherwise, I think it's really solid.
awesome. Thank you. Diallo.
You had me at seniors getting naked. I was like, yeah, I'm on board with this. What's funny is I actually saw Leah start laughing and second that was said, and I was like, yep, that's how I feel too. Honestly, I don't know that I have a whole lot of notes on this one because it's personal, it's clear. Gosh, it seems, it's like you said, great title, seems funny on the page, the little bit of page that we have to go off of. No, I would be reaching if I said I had any suggestions. I think this one's good.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just touch on the same. Short and sweet is beautiful there, right? I mean, it's very succinct. It's tight, and especially for the condensed timeline we're looking at. Great title. We touched on that. Yeah, I mean, I think if there'd be some to say if we ever had to get in a room and pitch, right? Like, what does the 10-15 minute version look like? Because then we really have to delve into some characters there. But in this context, yeah, I think hook, line, and sinker. It's great. Absolutely, well done. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, so we're at the halfway point, and then we're going to do the final four. But I just kind of wanted to touch base with each of you guys and ask you a question about pitching. Leah, for you, what is the most important aspect when you're listening? I know these are short, kind of like elevator punchy pitches, but maybe in the longer form, like what's the main thing that you're looking for in a pitch?
If I can take us, well, there's a few things. I think confidence goes a very long way. Generally, whenever you're trying to sell anything, I think everybody in this specific circumstance has nailed personal connection. Whatever ISA is doing to coach talking about personal connection is absolutely working. I want to know why. There's an infinite amount of stories to tell in the world, and so I want to know why this person has chosen to tell this story and invest their life into telling it, because that passion is so contagious. So I just love when people are passionate about what they're doing. And I mean, I'm biased because I work in comedy, but when somebody can also tell a serious story while also holding on to like the levity that can come from confidence too, I think that can go a long way. I love it when somebody can make me smile.
Yes. Awesome, thank you. Diallo, for you, when you are pitching, when you're prepping to pitch and getting it ready, what is your process?
I actually prepare for it like it's stand up and a performance, in part, I mean, everybody comes to this a little bit different. Like, some screenwriters have a reputation for being like, very much just about the writing, and they're, I'll just say for my part, they know that I do some on camera stuff as well, and I have a writing partner. We're just kind of ham. So like we get up. I remember one time we sold something to ABC, and it was literally just like it felt like a concert, because we were pitching this thing about, because we went to college together, and it's about an a cappella group. So like we spent a good third of that pitch like just singing, which was absurd. But like I think everybody develops their own style. Maybe because you're never quite on set as much as you want to. I actually enjoy the performative part of the pitch, and we're usually pitching comedies, and so we want to see the other person laugh, and we want to elicit that thing out of them, so I just think you bring your personality, always be clear, and like almost like what you were saying to Mia, who had a great pitch, know that script that she has so well that she can not, like you have it. Trust me, pitching was a lot harder before we had Zoom. Now I can literally be reading this off of the screen, and you guys would hopefully not know. So I feel like pitching is actually easier than it's ever been. Go in there with your deck. Go in there if you want to be on the show, like convince them in the pitch that this is the person who needs needs to have that part in the show. I think that just be super prepared. Kind of cliche, but I think very true.
Awesome, thank you. And Mark, my question for you is, when you are listening to pitches or working with someone on a pitch to kind of get it ready, what do you think the biggest challenges or pitfall that people kind of fall into? Is there something like, is there a common mistake that you're like correcting or telling somebody to make sure that you do this or that?
For sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of it, and once we know what what the story is and where it's trying to go, I think it really comes back to the confidence piece in going through those practice pitches, right? And everyone who's been up tonight has really delivered and has obviously put some incredible work in. I certainly agree. It's easier now. Within the world of Zoom, but I would also highlight, and here's some things I've seen. Obviously, for this sake, I doubt we were leaning in kind of like an imagery world, but I have seen, especially with Zoom, some amazing pitches with photos, with graphics, kind of even coming up in the background. There's some awesome stuff we can do with technology now. So definitely, if you can incorporate that in a professional way, feel free, as a and pitch it to your friends, to producers, and just gauge their feedback as well. And kind of the last piece, sometimes people miss on, obviously, we haven't tonight, but miss on that personal connection piece. In a way to get there that I don't know if I've seen thus far, but I kind of recommend it, is the rhetorical question, right? It's like, have you ever been in a situation where, or like, because then it puts people in the right mindset, like, oh, that has happened. I've never thought of that that way. But the rhetorical question kind of ties in there as well. So just a few things to think about.
Awesome. That's all great. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're going to move on to number 5 now. Hi, Candace.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Candace Marie. I'm a director, a producer, and a screenwriter based here in Seoul, South Korea. I'm actually coming to you live from Apex Music Studios, so I look pretty illuminated right now. We are producing some of K-pop's top artists in the room next door, so if you hear some great music, ignore that until you sign an NDA. I moved to Korea in 2005, and I've lived here on and off ever since. I think I've been writing screenplays in the back of K-pop studios for probably the same amount of time. My best friend dropped out of Berkeley, and he moved here to pursue music, and I just kind of followed him wherever he set up shop. So that's how I got here, and that's kind of what led to Sare, which is Songs About Love in English. It's my 1-hour K-pop musical drama. There should be a playlist in the chat for you guys, and we sent this to the panelists a little bit before this event to kind of set the tone. It's inspired by my pilot, which follows Lee, a young African-American creative who is working out her personal tragedy through a series of simultaneous romantic relationships. And this is when she meets Isaac, who is very chaotic, very haunted, and he's on the rise of becoming a very successful K-pop producer in Korea. So we tune in every week to see this will they, won't they of their love, what happens when they get together, what happens when it doesn't work out. But we also tune in to get that behind the scenes look of how the K-pop sausage is really made. If you're into K-dramas, Sade has those light, addictive overtones of K-dramas, but it does manage to give that kind of gut-punching reality check of what living the life of your dreams is really like, and what the path to finding true love can really look like. I'm in the middle of that path. I'm probably on season 3 of Sade right now. I'm watching my best friend marry the girl of his dreams, so we'll see how Sade turns out. But if you love K-pop, if you love K-dramas, but you're ready for kind of a refreshing lens on those narratives, then Sade is definitely 100% the show for you. 감사합니다. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Mark, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, very, very well done. I think you basically nailed the extemporaneous speaking. Like, hey, let me have this conversation with you and tell you about this story, this very unique story. And I think that was what was most interesting to me. It's like, oh, this is a setting I haven't seen before, right? Which was fantastic. I think the one thing I was kind of maybe looking for, and I think I know what the answer is, but what's the main adversity our characters face here? Is it living the lifestyle kind of like and the difficulties of that?
Yeah, it's the living their lives and their own issues that keep them from kind of accepting love, what it needs to be and how it has to kind of play out. And
Gotcha.
then how their successes at different times pull them together. So it has that kind of push and pull that we get from a lot of K-dramas. She's
Gotcha.
more of like Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride,
Okay.
she's got to get her shit together. And he's
For
like,
sure.
who's like,
I see.
this is
For
what
sure.
I want,
Okay.
but I can't get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that actually, yeah, that's a great comp right there. I think that was maybe the only thing that I was like, oh, like what exactly is the journey of these characters? Obviously, again, characters we haven't seen. Where do they go? Where do their arcs take us? But no, yeah, outside of that, very well done. It was a great pitch. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Diallo.
I don't know that I have a whole lot of notes on this. I think it was really clear, and I listened to the playlist that you sent over. Some great stuff on there. I still think of John Baptiste as the guy who's on the Colbert Show, and I was like, oh my god, some of this stuff is really interesting. You said it's a musical?
Yeah.
Okay. Would they be, I mean, the songs on this playlist are just supposed to evoke some of the songs that you would create for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. So
I mean,
we write music here all the time. I'm surrounded by it, and yeah, that's the fun of it. So we left space, even in the pilot, for the music because that's what it's all about, and that's where we see, to answer the question earlier, that's where we see what's working out. That's the allegory. How they're making that song is kind of telling the story that these two are walking out as well.
I really like it, and and I really like a well done musical too. So I'm really interested to see. I mean, like, take this bit of advice if you want. This is definitely not something you have to do. It might be nice, since if it's going to be a musical with original songs, maybe you give the person you're pitching like a demo of like just one original song, just so that we know that component is already sort of, I mean, obviously you're working with the top of the line people, but it might be nice to have sort of a cool song to leave people with.
Cool. And you listened to the playlist, so you heard the track by Nana Melly.
Yeah.
She's the girl and that's her demo for the show.
Oh, great. Oh, that's super cool then. Yeah, right on. What was the how's that guy pronounce his name? Some of these names nowadays, I just see the name and I'm like, that's a V, that's not a U, but it's Juke.
Jake. It's supposed to be
Jake?
an A.
It's an upside down A?
Come on, Diallo.
Oh, man.
Where are you?
Ask me what the last music video I saw was. I just don't do it like I used to. But
I
I mean,
listen
like,
to
the
your
music on that
podcast, so I
playlist
think I
was
know what the answer to
exceptional.
that is, actually.
What?
I listen to your podcast, so I know what the answer to that is.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. I appreciate it. I mean, seriously, it's a really good. Thank you for helping me out with Jake. It's a really good playlist, and as you know, I'm a lover of music, so I can't wait to hear, just one. Give us a little taste of an original song. I think would be super cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
I'm gonna knock on the door next.
Yeah.
Tell the guys, come on over. They're ready.
Love this pitch. Fascinating world that you have a firsthand view to, because I think coming from anybody but you, or coming from anybody but somebody immediately immersed in the K-pop world, I think this would be a really hard show to sell because it is expensive and it's insular. But I think that your unique experience actually really elevates this a lot. So I commend you. I mean, it's the experience that you're having. I guess you did choose it, but nonetheless, I commend you for putting
It's the
it
life
on
that
paper
chose me.
as it shows. The
I
life
didn't
that
choose
chose
this life.
you. My dumb question is, does this take place in Korea or does it take place in the US?
No, it's set in Seoul. Seoul is one of the main characters of the show. The
Okay.
whole first season, she doesn't even have a house. She's just always on these streets. And so we get to see like how it contributes. If you guys are really obsessed with things set in New York, you should see how it plays out when it's set in Seoul. It's like on cocaine, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to go so badly. And is it an English language show or is it in
Yes.
yeah.
That's a
Okay,
good
so it's
question because
English
the
language
pilot,
set in
I wrote it,
Seoul.
yeah, writing that pilot and writing it in 2 languages, but it's all written actually in English. Everybody's kind of figure out how they're going to present the pilot, right? So I use brackets,
Yeah.
thing in Korean, and the cool thing is that she, being African American, speaks Korean better than he does, and he's Korean American. So they play with language and understanding each other, which is a nice
That's
little
really
twist
cool.
on a K-drama. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I feel like there's something really interesting about I would definitely clarify that in the pitch because it is a unique setting and so getting really clear about like this is for English speaking audiences I think is helpful. But that also something that's really strong and unique about it is it's K-pop and K-drama is such a tremendous sensation for American audiences within the last 10 years. And here's this show that can capitalize on that for English speaking audiences in a way that I just don't think that that's really existed so far. So it's very unique and you have a really cool insight into it. So definitely keep going on this one. And bringing all these K-pop power players into the show as much as possible.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Candace. All right, we are moving on. Next up, we have Kiefer Lloyd. Kiefer is one of our Fast Track Fellows from this current round. So we will bring Kiefer up.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. This has been so inspiring to hear everybody's pitches. I have like 12 new ideas just.
Awesome. Okay, well, anytime that you're ready, go ahead, Kiefer.
Yeah, my name is Kiefer. I'm so excited to pitch Fever to you today. All the things that I write about characters who have to break out of the structures that they find themselves in. That sort of seems to be the through line, which ISA has helped me figure out. And Fever is no different. So Fever is a half-hour TV series set in New York's late 70s disco scene. So think The Bear, but set in the world of Pose, if that makes sense. So meet Nell, the straightest gay boy in New York, an ambitious, uptight 20-something from one of the city's richest Black families. Nell was kicked out by his powerful father for being gay, and on New Year's Eve, 1976, he's making ends meet managing a Greasy Spoon diner in the graffiti-covered trash can that is Bushwick. But Nell has a dream to open his own club in Manhattan, a disco, to rival Studio 54. when the dangerous, vindictive mob boss who owns the building threatens to shut down the diner unless they pay back rent, Nell comes up with a crazy new idea: turn the diner into a makeshift disco and throw a New Year's party to pay the rent, and finally get the crew of misfits that work there to listen to him. Enter the other half of this two-hander, the gayest straight boy in New York, Joey. Joey is a white straight boy go-go dancer, and deep inside, he just yearns to belong. But on the outside, Joey's a loose cannon whose charm usually lets him get away with anything, including ordering breakfast at a Bushwick diner and skipping out on his tab. Joey didn't count on Nell and the rest of the diner crew, though. They catch him and force him to help. Joey is everything Nell is not, but if they can tolerate each other, Joey is the missing piece that Nell needs to pull off the party. So that's what they do. By the end of the pilot, Nell, Joey, and the team manage to save the diner, only to wind up with a bigger problem. It's worked too well. The mob boss sees the potential here and orders Nell to keep the parties going next week and the week after that, or he will shutter the diner for good. And so the series kicks off. Nell, Joey, and their scrappy crew need to build a club from the ground up, keep the mob happy, dodge the suspicious police, and learn to trust each other. As Nell lets go of the rules of his father's Manhattan world and proves himself on his own terms in Bushwick, Joey learns what it's like to have a family, one that accepts him no matter what. And as they go closer, Nell and Joey discover slow burn feelings for the last person they would expect, each other. After all, like Madonna said, every straight boy needs another man's tongue in his mouth once in his life. So that is Fever. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Kiefer. I'm going to go to you, Leah, first.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. What a fun world we find ourselves in this story. I think that was a very fun pitch. And also there were a lot of details in there, some of which I got a little tripped up on. For me, the mob boss element, I was a little confused by. I would definitely encourage it sounds like a big world and a bit of an ensemble show, which is why it's probably challenging to condense it down into 30 seconds. But I think finding that sort of core concept a little faster will help you, because in the beginning, when you're talking about Studio 54, trying to turn a diner into Studio 54, it's like, okay, that I get. I get where we are. We're in the 70s. We're exploring queer culture. Once you started kind of digging deeply into the characters, I started to get a little bit more lost. And I do feel like I understand what the show is, and I think that this is really close. I would just look for a way to maybe strip back the details a little bit. I like this romance between the two characters. Yeah, my one question for you is, why is it a half an hour and not an hour?
Just because it feels like the kind of thing that we want to be dropped into, be totally immersed by, and then it's over. And I don't want to let the
kind
air
of like
out
The
it.
Bear.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Bear redefined what a half-hour show is versus
Every
an
time I
hour.
read the Bear pilot, I'm like, wait, and I'm on page 5? How am I still
Yeah.
on page 5? Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's nice to know too, that like that's the tone of the show, is that it moves really fast. Like we're in the world, it's color and flash. It feels like something that sort of lives and dies by style a little bit as well.
Much
yeah, but
like
it's
Studio 54.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, definitely a really, really fun world that's ripe for TV digging.
Thank you so much. Those notes are incredibly helpful.
I'm glad.
Awesome. Mark, to you.
Very well done. I think this is a very exciting time, right? Like the late 70s, the Studio 54, at least for me, it's a very unique thing to try and pick apart. Now, I guess my question would be, did you, and you seem to have this down, did you do a lot of research into the time period, into New York during that time? Yeah. Again, I think that would be the challenge. What kind of, how were you able to unpack all that?
Just a ton of research, a ton of
Okay.
research. This is inspired by a friend of mine who was a straight boy go-go dancer in New York, and
yeah.
I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then realized that there was this amazing time period in which, like, kind of a brief window in between Pose and in between a lot of the sort of like very narrow slices of the 70s that we've explored that we haven't quite explored.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
And then it was a ton of research.
Yeah, I believe it. I think very unique in the specificity, you know, is certainly there. I think you know, getting, especially for this one, getting the right person on board with a vision. And I'm not sure if you're a director, but like someone's going to have a very clear take on this, you know, which is important. But the more detail, you know, you're able to give, you know, is certainly going to be helpful. And I was interested to see how you kind of thread the needle with the end of the pilot, and where it landed. I think is great. Like, hey, now they have to do this and repeat this every night, or you know, or face the consequences, right? Like, oh, okay, I definitely see where this lands. And the one thing I would also say is just with definitely a lot of characters, I felt, does the gay straight boy have a girlfriend or anything? Only because as soon as you introduced the characters, I was like, they're going to be together, which isn't necessarily bad. And I was like, oh, of course, you know. So is there anything that's placed as an obstacle kind of between them there?
There is a little bit of a love triangle. I don't want to suck too much I don't want to shift too much of the focus in that direction. So threading that needle is difficult. And I've felt that would be distracting in the pitch.
For sure. But yeah.
That is there, definitely. Yeah.
Fair. Absolutely. Yeah. No. I mean, I think it's great. Just kind of you know, touching on what Leah said. Just maybe some clarity just with the characters. But yeah, I think it was very well done, and I think it's a beautiful setting. So yeah, thank you, Kiefer. Sure.
Thank you. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
Giallo.
Look, man, you checked off a lot of boxes for me. I'm a huge disco fan. I lived in New York for a while. Like, you know, I'd be curious to know, like, you know, everybody knows Studio 54. I did some research for Tosh, and when they thought they were going to do this book on New York discos of the 70s specifically. Are you basing this on, like, because like the second you said, oh, we're turning a diner into a disco, like I thought about current day La Esquina, but then I also thought about Crisco Disco, which, you know, was in a building that looked like a can of Crisco, you know, like on West 15th. Like, are you basing this on a particular establishment? I'm just curious.
I'm not, but you throwing those names out makes me think that I have more research to do. I haven't discovered any that sort of started that way, but if you can make one out of a can of Crisco.
It was, you know, the Paradise Garage is one of the most culturally important places in the history of disco music. And it was in a garage. Like, they literally turned a garage into a disco. So I'd be
actually and again, I thought this would be distracting in the pitch, but depending on who I'm pitching it to, I would definitely put this in. That Larry Levin, one of the
Larry Levin
DJs. Is it Levin?
Yeah, it's Levin.
I need to know that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You've gotten something out of this, nothing else. It's
amazing.
But I'm glad you know Larry Levin. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he is a character in, like, we're working with a fictional ensemble, but grounded in real history, and he is a character, like a tertiary character in this. Just because I've never seen him on screen before.
No, and I mean, full disclosure, I'm trying right now to write something about my time as a DJ for the Standard Hotels. I used to do all the hiring of the DJs, and I hired the box models for Andre Balazs. And full disclosure, I'm trying to write a scene where Larry Levin shows up in a dream. So when you see that, don't be like, hey. But but yeah, I mean, like, I think it's a fascinating world, the world of disco. You know, I feel like it's never been served right. They tried to do it on vinyl on HBO, and it was terrible because it was really out from the outside in. I didn't like it. I think Chippendales has been good for what it's there for, but even they don't really touch on this stuff. So I mean, I'll be one of the first people to watch it, man. I think it's a fascinating and has not been told area.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Thanks, Kiefer.
Thank you.
All right, so we have two Katies. The last two are both Katies. So first up, we have Katie Combs. I see you and hear you. How are you?
I'm good. Here's my face. So I'm gonna put my glasses back on so I can follow my little cheat notes. But I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Anytime you're ready, go ahead.
All right. I'm excited to tell you about my 4-quadrant limited series. It's called The Curious Journeys of Samuel Mullins. So imagine a 12-year-old boy. He has mild hemiplegic cerebral palsy, and his best friend is his dog named Willow. And unbeknownst to Samuel, he's about to be sent on these horrific yet fantastic journeys by his future self. So in the pilot episode, Samuel and Willow shrink down and enter this community of mushroom creatures that live in harmony, but something's off. And by the end of the episode, they will escape barely with their lives. But Sam will understand what it's like to be part of a cult and what that looks like. And so each episode is this new wild adventure that sort of explores some social construct or psychological condition. And there's an episode where they go to a world where everybody looks on the outside like they are on the inside, and Sam doesn't like how he looks. And there's another episode where they go to a winter wonderland where it's like this utopia of snow worlds, but everyone is addicted to a candy that keeps them warm. And there, Sam will actually become addicted and have to live with addiction. He also runs into his father, who's sort of disappeared from the beginning, and it will unearth a lot of questions for him. And so this limited series comes from some very personal things for me. When I was 13, I visited Dachau concentration camp, and I just became sort of obsessed and fascinated with just how things like that can happen, how we see each other, what those crossroads are in our lives. I also have 3 adult children, 2 of which had to navigate the addiction of a parent during a really difficult age. So I relate a lot to Sam's mother, who's just trying to stay above board and kind of figure out what to do with her kid at this age. I also love shows like Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, movies like Get Out that sort of take a look at that social discovery place with a little bit of humor and a lot of terror. And so for the tone of the show, think Black Mirror, but for family audiences, mixed with series of unfortunate events, maybe a little Empire of the Sun and Harry Potter to really hit that 4-quadrant space. And Samuel is flawed, and he's kind and brave and insecure, and all the things that sort of connect us as humans. And I would just love to introduce him to you and his good girl, Willow. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Katie. Diallo, I'll start with you.
There's a lot there. I think that, and I like the pitch. I think that I need a little clarity, in the sense that, okay, let me ask you a couple quick questions. You said it was, what did you say that he has?
Mild hemiplegic cerebral palsy.
And I mean, I don't know what that means. What is that?
So it's interesting because I have the kind of back of it is I have a nonprofit for young performers, and kids are pretty chill with differences these days. And so as a writer, this was sort of like a vehicle to give him another obstacle, but it's just something a lot of kids have it just sort of gets in the way a little bit. He goes to physical therapy, but it's just another sort of layer that I use within the story construct. So in some of the worlds he has it and some he doesn't, and at that 12, 13 age he's kind of dealing with, oh, I don't have it here, and what does that mean? And it only really matters when there's a girl involved for this particular guy. But it's sort of just another vehicle. But it was also a way for me to sort of highlight how kids are these days, and I don't see that sort of attitude represented in a lot of,
But it does factor into the stories. It's not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Okay.
But the story isn't about his disability, if that makes sense. Not like a key focal point, but it is significant to his character.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm wrapping my head around it.
I know.
Yeah,
trying to get it.
There's a lot going on here. So yeah, but thank you for clarifying that.
Leah.
Hello. What a cool world to explore. I agree. There's some things to wrap our heads around here. I'll start with a simple format question, which is the comps that you gave were Black Mirror and some Get Out. So there was something else. But
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, which are all anthologies, and or a standalone film like Get Out, but you pitched this as a limited series, and so I'm curious why limited series and what this looks like episode to episode, and how standalone each episode is, and just what led you to kind of pick those comps versus something that was a little bit more conventionally serialized.
Well, when I was looking at the overall story, I had started it as a novel. And so each chapter, there's a bigger story sort of behind that story, but essentially the future him, which we don't know yet, is sending items, and each of these items takes him to a different world to learn a thing he's going to need to know as an adult. And so each of these adventures kind of deal with those heavier concepts. And so that's why the limited series seemed to work the best. I also figured in a pitch meeting, and if I was working with executives, it opens up to sort of wherever you want to go with it. So the next series might be his future self, or the backstory of his little sister, or something like that. It kind of kept it open-ended, but also this idea of going into other spaces made it creatively open to discovering. It's sort of open-ended. And so that's why the series seemed to work the best, because there's not, other than finding out that his father is an addict and having to sort of process that, there isn't like a full beginning to end arc. There's a lot of smaller arcs that it's a coming of age piece.
I love coming of age.
Yeah.
I would think about potentially not pitching it as a limited series, only because it's going to make it harder to get traction with. And if it doesn't need to be, I would encourage you to think about whether it for the purposes of pitch, whether it should be, because the vast majority of limited series that sell are based on IP, and they are limited. They're inherently limited because they're telling a story that ends, that exists, that has value because it's a piece of intellectual property that people are familiar with. And it just we're in a very contracted TV market, and so it's hard for buyers to want to invest in something that is going to be expensive, that also, if it gets a fan base, they can't do season 2. Like, it can be just an immediate red flag. So just something and that's such an easy thing to look at. So that's something that I would encourage you to kind of chew on a little bit more. And then I wanted to hear a little more about your personal connection to it as well. Because cerebral palsy as a character choice is so specific, like learning about what that choice came from, I think is helpful. I know you talked about going to Dachau, which is obviously like a very sobering and intense experience to have. I've been to many concentration camps, and it is a very, I think it's something that everybody should do in their life. And I guess I would just say, if you're going to go there, as far as that being the personal connection, it was a heavy enough anecdote that the story felt very whimsical, and then I wasn't. There's some tonal unification, I think, that you have a little bit of room to explore. That being said, this is not to say don't explore it, because I love this space that you are trying to dig into tonally. It sounds like my favorite kind of content, which is this sort of beautiful, magical, realist, strange human space. So I think I have a feeling you're on you have your finger very close to something very poignant. But I think in terms of a pitch, we're still sort of landing on that tone a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that's super helpful.
Thanks, Leah. Mark.
I think my major note is listen to the notes Leah just gave. That was fantastic. And I think in one thing, yeah, that has been touched on, when you lead with 4-quadrant, people's ears stick up. That's actually very well done. They're very hard to do, and they often are based in IP. But leading with that, I think, is great. In the limited series note, I would certainly agree if it can be kind of a more TV driven. I think what might help on the tonal piece is something I kind of mentioned earlier. Is after you go into that 4-quadrant thing, if there's a question that exists there, hey, have you ever spent time around underprivileged youth or around youth with cerebral palsy? I actually run a nonprofit that is dealing with this space, and that's going to launch you right into why it's important. And it's like, oh yeah, I have dealt with that. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, tell me more about that. And there's your tone. Boom, and it's right there and it's set up. And then I think the rest of it is there. It's, hey, here's the pilot, and here's the different social discoveries that these characters go through. And the reason I can tell that story is because of what you've already given us at the front, which is, hey, I have a lot of experience here. I'm passionate about this. And so point being, I think it all exists there. I think it's just the structure of where it all lands, is going to help it flow. But yeah, it's very, very creative, very, very unique. Yeah, it sounds like it would be a fun watch for sure.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Okay, does everyone have it in them for one more? Katie Crone is coming up. She was a fast track fellow on our last round that we had to pause because of the strikes. So we're excited. Hi, Katie.
Hi, hello. How's it going?
All right, anytime you're ready, go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. This has been so amazing to hear everyone's pitches and to hear all of your feedback. It's been so helpful. So my name is Katie Crone. I'm Katie number 2. And I'm the writer of Euthanasia, which is spelled youth in Asia, to clarify. It's a family road trip dramedy in the vein of Little Miss Sunshine. And the story follows Betty, a sarcastic, somewhat petty elderly woman who's diagnosed with a terminal cancer and pretty immediately decides that she would like to be euthanized. It's kind of an F you to cancer. It's very, you're not going to kill me, I'm going to kill myself kind of energy, which tells you everything you need to know about Betty. But there are still a few loose ends that she wants to tie up, and euthanasia is only legal in certain states. So she manages to guilt her estranged son, Ben, and his 2 children into a cross-country road trip from Orlando to Portland that will culminate in her own euthanasia. Now, Ben only agrees to this plan because, well, he's a total pushover, but also he hopes that maybe, just maybe, he can talk her out of it. But these hopes are quickly dashed when they reach the first stop on Betty's bucket list, a visit to her deceased father's memorial bench. And Ben discovers, ooh, Betty is not here to pay her respects. She is here to smash this bench with a hammer. This trip, it is not a walk down memory lane. The memories are bad, and Betty is here for a little payback. Now, the story is partly inspired by my years working as a home care aide for the elderly. I like to joke I spent most of my early 20s hanging out with women in their early 80s. And it was really interesting to me to see in like this last chapter of these women's lives what mattered to them. And often what mattered to them was that they were still pissed at their ex-husband and hurt that their sister said that one thing in passing that one time, or embarrassed about that thing that happened in high school. And all of my favorites were named Betty. So euthanasia, in a way, is a love letter to my Bettys, and it's a love letter to families trying to get better at being families. And this particular family has never let anything go ever. So they'll be forced to reevaluate what's worth finally letting go and what's worth maybe holding on to a little tighter. And that is euthanasia.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Mark, I'm going to go to you first.
That was very lovely. That was there's comedy in there. It was lighthearted, and maybe the most important thing, it's a very heavy subject, right? Like, and it is controversial, and I think that's actually what makes it kind of stand out and unique. And I think you look at it through a lens in which you've been there, and you've seen a lot of these characters firsthand. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a lot, in regards to that pitch, other than I would definitely read it. It sounds interesting. I think given the elements of it, I think it's a very tough needle to thread. But if done correctly, I think it would be very entertaining. But also, it would it's something we're having to deal with in society now, and it needs to be addressed. So how are we dealing with these topics? So it's a big swing, but very well done for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark Diallo.
No notes. I thought it was outstanding. And earlier I was saying that, like, if you're pitching a comedy, it helps to throw in some stuff that's like actually funny, and you did that, and you made it completely conversational. So, and there's heart, and there's relatable shit about family. I mean, like, it's a freaking amazing, really solid pitch. I really don't have any notes. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And Leah.
Yes, agreed. I mean, this is my favorite, my absolute favorite genre. I feel like I've been contradicting myself, because I feel like I've said this about a couple different projects so far. But I love dramedy, and I love when you take the heaviest subjects and make them funny. And I think that that's absolutely what this is. I love this moment about smashing the gravestone, and also this idea. I just love this idea that, like, in these very profound moments at the end of our lives, when we're supposed to have this wisdom, the thing that sticks is that that my ex-husband was a son of a bitch. Like, that's just great. I have the most annoying question, which is, I think this title is very fun. It's Youth in Asia, but youth in Asia. But the story takes place in the US. So do we address that in the story?
It is addressed. It is addressed. So it's inspired by my own grandmother, who's still alive. She's okay. But when she was younger, she was in class and she was assigned to write a paper about euthanasia, and she had never seen the word written down. So she was so confused. And she went up to the teacher afterwards and was like, can you narrow this down? Like, which Asian countries? Like, what age do you consider youth? And so, like, it's just been a story that's been passed on to my own family. So I love that it's a nod to my grandmother. And then also the youngest character in the story, like the youngest grandson, has like fully no idea what is going on and is just asking them questions about Japan.
Yeah.
for most of the story. And then I think I do like that tonally, like you were all saying, like, it's a really dark subject matter that is handled like with a lot of humor. And so just giving the title just a stupid pun is really satisfying to me, and I think sets the tone.
I don't know how
like,
it took me
while
this
you're in
long.
store.
I haven't heard anybody call it Youth in Asia, and I'm like, damn, that was some low-hanging fruit. We all missed it. I think it's a really catchy title. It also speaks to the fact that the person who's about to pitch you has a sense of humor. So, anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm totally. I did get that it was supposed to be euthanasia, like the word was supposed to be euthanasia, but I love that the anecdote, and I feel like maybe that goes very quickly into the 1 minute pitch at the top, because not only is it funny, but it also is reflective of the tone overall. It's like, here we're going to take the most serious thing and we're going to answer it in the most silly way. And also assuage overly literal development executives that are like, but it takes place in the US. But yeah, it's a great pitch. I would love to read that. Very, very fun.
Well, thank you. This is all very helpful. So thank you.
Thanks, Katie. All right, you guys, we made it through 8 amazing pitches. I want to thank all of you for being here, watching, giving amazing chat in the chat box. Just lovely, energetic, positive comments. So thank you for doing that. I was reading them as we went. And thank you, Mark and Diallo and Leah, for being here and just being so thoughtful and just wonderful. I mean, I know that it's, the industry is crazy, but to find kindness is just, for me, like, whew, thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your insight. We really appreciate it. And thank everybody, all of our pitchers, all of our Fast Track Fellows, all of our winners, everyone for being here. Thank you so much. And we will see you the next time we do a pitch panel.
Thank you, Shana.
Thanks, everybody. This was so fun.
Thanks, everybody.
See y'all next time.